welcome to this press conference, all important press conference. We salute you and we celebrate you for commitment and dedication to a noble cause. Being the text of a world press conference on the urgent need for the NNPC Limited Group Executive Officer Mele Kyari to obey the court order to publicly disclose the whereabouts of the proceeds of stolen 48 million barrels of Nigeria's Bonny Light crude oil stored in China in 2015. We'll give you the details of the press conference. This World Press Conference is by the Nigerian Political Parties, CNPP, the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, with allied civil society organizations under the aegis of Coalition of National Civil Society Organizations against inept leadership held in Abuja, Tomprac Hotels on the Thursday, 19th of October 2023. Protocols duly observed. Like I said, we welcome you all. Gentlemen of the press, you are all welcome to this most important world press conference, the first by the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties in collaboration with the civil society, non-governmental organizations since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took over from Muhammad Buhari on the May 29th, 2023. Gentlemen of the press, from the 2015 until today, 2 terms gone, Nigerians are wondering what is happening across our country regarding revenue, regarding economy, regarding our finances. As you and I talk, funds are being borrowed daily. As you and I talk, resources are being frittered away. As you and I talk, billions of dollars are being borrowed by government when otherwise there should be sufficient resources to run our country. And that's why we're here today. From 2015 until the end of a 2 tenure of the last administration, Nigerians were subjected to increasing hardship under the All Progressive Congress, the APC. The coming of the current administration took the suffering of the masses to unprecedented levels. One major challenge every administration in the country has faced is how to make the life of ordinary citizens better. Every government has complained of lack of adequate income to cater to the well-being and other needs of the citizens. This has been blamed on Nigeria's overdependence on oil as the main source of foreign exchange. In recent times, especially in the 8 years of the Muhammad Buhari administration, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, the company limited now, formerly the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, has been replete with controversies bordering on corruption, incomplete remittance of revenues to the Federation account, and outright withholding of revenues that should be remitted to the Federation account. But the other leg of the unending controversies involving the NNPC Limited has to do with the allegations of complicity in the ongoing oil theft saga in Nigeria. It is so worrisome that the NNPC Limited is unable to reasonably account for why Nigeria can't meet its OPEC oil quota annually amid allegations of illegal crude oil sales. Crude oil theft in Nigeria. The story is something everyone knows here. Recently, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, confirmed that Nigeria has lost so much from oil theft. He made the revelation while inaugurating an ad hoc committee to investigate crude oil theft, mandating the committee to look into the loss of revenue and the menace caused by crude oil theft between 2009 and 2020. He lamented, like we have always done, particularly within the past 8 years, that oil theft has drastically hampered the growth of the country's economy in oil production, with Nigeria losing between 5% and 30% of daily production. The Speaker had cited data from the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NITI, saying that the country's oil production declined from 2.51 million barrels per day in 2005 to 1.77 million barrels per day in 2020. Right Honorable Abbas observed that NITI reports also show that 609 million barrels of crude oil valued at $46 billion were stolen in the period 2009 to 2020. Nigeria has continually failed to meet its daily production quota as set by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Despite further reduction of Nigeria's OPEC quota from 1.742 million barrels per day to 1.38 million barrels per day in recent times, the country is still struggling to meet this quota, as daily production output was 1.184 million barrels per day and 1.249 million barrels per day in May and June 2023, respectively. This is a country that is borrowing beyond limit in the face of huge natural resources. It's tragic, painful, worrisome, and benumbing. It is sad that Nigeria can hardly service her debts, nor meet recurrent expenditures. On average, Nigeria's current daily production output is a far cry from this year's budget consumption of 1.6 million barrels per day. Every citizen knows the implication. We know that if you're not producing enough and selling enough, you have little or no revenues to run your economy. It is reflected in the economic crisis that the country is facing today. We talk about lack of resources, we talk about economic crunch, we talk about problems, and we talk about government going to borrow, when in actual fact, we should have so much. The major reason why Nigerians are suffering and the federal government and state governments are unable to execute any meaningful infrastructural project is due to corruption and failure of the NNPCL Limited under engineer Mele Kyari to remit revenues to the Federation account. Gentlemen of the press, before us, 48 million barrels of crude oil stolen in Nigeria, stored as told in China under Mele Kyari's watch, is our concern. Beyond refusal to accurately account for revenues received on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, the NNPC and the NNPC Limited has been at the center of the illegal sale of 48 million barrels of Nigeria's bonylite crude oil in China in 2015, valued at $4.8 million at $100 per barrel. And this is the fact that the whistleblower is brought to the fore. Fundamentally, and the news everywhere is the fact that our federal government has gone out borrowing another $1.5 billion to meet certain demands. And the logic, the deep question that we must ask is, why go borrowing $1.5 billion when you have $4.8 billion somewhere? In December 2022, the Ninth National Assembly, under the aegis of the House of Representatives, had resolved to constitute an ad hoc committee to investigate the whistleblower's allegation of illegal sale of crude oil and the insurance status of the cargo involved. The committee was also to investigate all crude oil exports and sales by Nigeria from 2014 to 2022 with regards to the quantity, insurance, the revenue generated, remittances into the Federation account or other accounts, as well as utilization of the revenue for the period under review. The investigative panel was to probe all proceeds recovered through the whistleblower's policy. And interestingly, that was one of the greatest pluses of the past administration, signing into law the whistleblower's policy. And importantly, we're interested in seeing that our revenues, that the monies that should make Nigeria viable, productive, and economically self-sufficient, is not stolen by those who sabotage our collective patrimony. The investigative panel was to probe all proceeds received through the whistleblower's policy of the Buhari's regime and the level of compliance by the policy. The committee was to report back within 4 weeks for further legislative action. The House of Reps resolution to carry out the investigation followed a unanimous adoption of a motion moved by a member of the Ninth House, Ibrahim Isiaka, titled Alleged Loss of over 4.8 billion in revenue from illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil exported in 2015, including crude oil exports from 2014 till date. According to him, the House is aware of the allegations by a whistleblower in July 2020 that he, the whistleblower, had in July 2015 and in response to the current administration's whistleblower policy, brought to the attention of a committee purportedly set up by the President for the recovery of missing crude oil exports. The existence of 48 million barrels of Nigeria's bonylite crude oil in a storage at several ports in China, ostensibly under the authorization of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and the intention of parties in China and the NNPC to sell the cargo. Alleged interference in stolen crude oil probe. We're not just talking because we want to talk. We're talking because fundamentally there are efforts to see that our country loses the $4.8 billion in issue. We're talking because there's an effort to see that the efforts of a whistleblower to which that our $4.8 billion is recovered and used for the benefits of our masses is subverted. We're talking because we're interested in making our country and the masses of our people benefit from our collective patrimony. Gentlemen of the press, alleged interference in stolen crude oil probe. In February 2023, the ad hoc committee openly accused the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, as well as Interpol, of interference in the committee's investigation. The chairman, House Ad hoc Committee on Oil Theft, Mark Wheeler, had said, there is a group called Advocacy for Good Governance and Free Nigeria. That is the so-called civil society group that wrote to the Attorney General claiming there was this international gang of blackmailers trying to blackmail senior government officials. How come the Attorney General responded to allegations by a faceless body? You ask yourself. That means that the Attorney General himself did not ascertain the veracity of any organization. You ask yourself, the witch cried last night, the child dies this morning. You can make your conjectures. Why was the immediate past Attorney General so anxious to attend to a message or an information from a body it called faceless? But interestingly, we can make our deductions. Of course, the refs panel was not satisfied with the submission of Interpol. It accused the former Attorney General of the Federation of interfering with the investigation of the House. However, in his reaction, the head of the National Central Bureau of Interpol, Nigeria, Garba Umar, had said the Bureau only acted on the request of the Attorney General. The investigative committee had feared that the safety of the whistleblower would be in danger and insisted that the Ministry of Justice should not be making direct requests to Interpol but should go through the police, as Interpol by law is only expected to respond to requests by local law enforcement agencies. As expected, the investigation became inconclusive and the tenure of the Ninth House of Representatives lapsed. That's why we're where we are. We're asking fundamental questions and we're saying that our resources must not be allowed to stay in individual hands. The government must go after those who have taken our resources. The government must do the needful, and that sufficient and effective action must be taken such that our country will not continuously and continually borrow funds, when in actual fact we have resources that we can tap in on. There were reports that in their desperation, the NNPCL Limited, through its group CEO, Mele Kyari, and the chief financial officer of the company, Umar Ajia, jetted out of the country to fly away Saudi Arabia in April 2023 to lobby the then president, General Mohammed Buhari, retired, under the guise of performing the Lesser Hajj, and to meet the then president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It was in their desperate efforts to remain in office. It is not certain whether they succeeded in meeting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but the NNPCL Limited has remained in the midst of allegations of corruption and covering of tracks for oil thieves through destruction of evidences, including the unceremonious burning of vessels caught with stolen crude oil without investigation or prosecution of the oil thieves. We saw a few months ago how that happened around Extravos. We have seen consistent complicity. We have seen the unpatriotic tendencies of those who superintend our oil sector to not only deny our country access to the resources that God has given us, but to subvert, divert, and take resources that should otherwise accrue to the Federation account for personal ends. Gentlemen of the press, we present before you concrete information, and indeed, our effort is for the good of our country. If you see what we shall present to you later, we have attached to this press statement the copy of a court order. The court order. Beyond preventing the lawmakers from carrying out their constitutional oversight functions of probing oil theft cases, using the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, the NNPCL Limited Group Executive Officer, Engineer Mele Kyari, has also refused to obey the order of the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory to disclose and publish, in the present instance, in furtherance of public interest, the whereabouts of the proceeds of the sale of 48 million barrels of bonylite crude oil stolen from Nigeria and stored in China under his watch. The presiding judge, Justice F.A. Aliu, made the order on July 12, 2023. Until now, the group CEO of NNPCL Limited has not responded. Since the order was made till date, Engineer Kyari has carried on as though the cough did not exist, let alone issuing an order. Our demand, gentlemen of the press, in view of the refusal of the Mele Kyari-led management of the NNPCL Limited to obey the order of a court, an obvious effort to frustrate every process that could lead to unraveling the mystery behind the illegal sale of the 48 million barrels of Nigeria's bonylite crude oil in China in 2015, valued at $4.8 billion, as leaked by whistleblowers, would demand for immediate suspension of the NNPC Limited Group CEO to pave way for unhindered investigations into the matter. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should, as a matter of urgent national importance, suspend Mele Kyari and carry out full forensic audit of the old NNPC and the new NNPC Limited under his watch. Alternatively, we call on Engineer Mele Kyari to immediately resign from office for open investigation of allegations against him. For President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to demonstrate to Nigerians and the international community that he has not endorsed the thieving cartel in the Nigerian oil sector. We call on him in his capacity as the head of the executive to order the immediate suspension, arrest, and prosecution of Mele Kyari, insofar as the 48 million barrels of crude oil in question was stolen. And that's what the court ordered. We have every reason to believe that Nigeria's oil revenue will continue to dwindle if Kyari remains in the helm of affairs at the NNPC Limited. It is time to hold him accountable. It is time to ensure that we have a country whose resources are used for the benefit of all, for the good of all. It is time to ensure that we have a nation that works for the benefit and for the good of all Nigerians. Thank you, and God bless you.